So now we are ready to create a database, but it wouldn't be a very good one yet. And that's because we do not really place any restrictions on our data. So we would not get any errors even if the fields were left blank. So let's put some restrictions on the data, and let's start with the author. And we want the ID to be the primary key in the table. Entity Framework would know that on its own because we called it ID, but I still like to explicitly annote the property. So I'll use the annotation key, and I have to import the namespace for it, which is the component model.data annotations. Next, I want the Entity Framework to automatically generate the ID for me. And to do that, we don't really need to do anything, but again, I like to explicitly tell database that this ID needs to be generated by the database and not by the user. So I'm gonna use the database generated annotation to it. So it's a database generated, and we'll put the option to be generated by the identity. And again, we need to import the namespace, which is data annotation.schema. So now this is a key that will be generated by the database, and that is the identity for this class, or it will be for the table. Now there are several options we can use, but the one, like I said, I want is the identity. If I do dot, you can see that I have computed, and I also have none. Next, we want the user to always enter the first and last name of the author. So we want these fields to be required. So the first name is required, and I will also require the last name. And we can also limit the number of characters. So I'm going to make the first name no more than, let's say, 100 characters, and the last name no more than 200 characters. So to do that, I'll use the max length, and I will use 100 characters for the first name. And you can see that we can also add an error message. So I will use a custom error message that will equal first name cannot be more than 100 characters. And I'm gonna copy this and use it for the last name as well. But this one will be 200 characters. So it's gonna be the last name cannot be more than 200 characters. Alright, this is for the author. Now let's go to the book, and I'm going to actually copy this because the ID for the book will be a key, and we want it database generated. So I'll place it there, and I will import the two namespaces for this. So that's for the key. And I want the ISBN and title to be required fields. So I'll mark them as required. Again, I'll copy it and place it for the title. And again, I can limit the length of the title, let's say, to 200 characters. So I'll go back to authors, and I'll use this one, max length for 200 characters for the title. So I'll just adjust the error message. So the title cannot be more than 200 characters. Now I also want to, let's say, limit the ISBN, and I want the minimum to be 3 characters and maximum of 10. And for that, I will use the string length annotation. So in the ISBN, I will use string length. And again, I want the maximum to be 10. That's the maximum length. And I want the minimum length to be 3. So I will specify the minimum length equals 3. And we can specify an error message as well. So I will do that. Error message will equal something like ISBN must be between 3 and 10 characters. Now as far as date published, this is an optional property. We don't have to require this from the user, so we'll make it optional. And to make it optional, all I have to do is place a question mark after the type. That will again make it optional, and if the user doesn't enter it, the data entered into the database will be null. Alright, and here comes your first homework. Can you do the rest of the annotations for all the other classes? You can try, just follow the same pattern, really, there's nothing to it. So let's have a look what kind of annotation we would need.